Morning, Andrei.
Good morning.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining this highly specialized professional discussion. Today we are going to talk about hydrogen economy development in the European dimension and the ways to mutually beneficial international cooperation. Considering the high topicality of the issue, we do not set the time limit on your interventions. However, common sense shows that longer than 7 minutes, unless you have a presentation, is not very efficient. So we are going to discuss the following issues: hydrogen in the EU energy policy and the Repower EU plan, the cooperation between the EU and Ukraine, when the first large-scale projects of Ukraine's export potential will appear, what needs to be done to implement them, investments in hydrogen projects, sources of financing, plans and scientific developments, pilot projects, and also the equipment market for hydrogen projects, what to expect in the next 5 or so years. I am pleased to give the floor to a person who actually initiated this series of discussions, and he is Valery Bezos, head of the State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving of Ukraine.
Thank you, Andrei. I thank all the colleagues who found the time to join our discussion. From one side, we in Ukraine have the tragic context of the war. From another side, there is a vacation time in the rest of Europe. Nevertheless, I think it would be a mistake to be a bit short-sighted, not to take into account a much broader view on what is going on in the energy sector as a basement for the whole modern economy. The emergence of the hydrogen economy is enormous. With all of its limitations, the possibility of having a relatively new kind of energy matter is quite exciting. Somebody calls it a panacea, somebody is a hype, but every energy expert keeps it on her or his radars, and it's good to have the opportunity to reassess the whole structure of available energy sources and the technologies that are in the basement of the progress, as we call it, is important. Taking into account all the challenges, climate changes, energy security, and sustainability, we are definitely in a need of such reevaluation and reassessment. So we need to have an open and purely professional discussion on how to deal with those challenges, those instruments that are available, that our science, R&D and businesses have to help us to face. It seems like hydrogen is among the answers. So let's decompose the idea of the new brave hydrogen world in our meetings. Welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Bezos. And of course, the Ukrainian state bodies are taking a huge interest in the topic. And the next to speak is Evgeny Rosikov. He is secretary of the Working Group for Development of Hydrogen Energy Strategy in the Ukraine's Ministry of Energy.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Rosikov, we can hear
Hello,
you.
can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear you, probably
Yeah,
you
sorry,
do not.
it was like, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great opportunity to speak to all of us on hydrogen topics, and what we see that Ukrainian renewables capacity factor can be a good solution for European demand. And to expand supply, we see some bottlenecks. It's like lack of investments and risk assessments. And we see that average cost per capita must be like beneath 7 or 5%. And also like now war is going, so we can start to preparing to do risk assessments and like audit of infrastructure to expand hydrogen technologies and infrastructure after the war. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Rosikov. We have also a tangible international representation in our discussion, and I invite to speak Silvia Martinez Romero, who is the Senior Energy Specialist for Europe and Central Asia at the World Bank.
Hello, hi to everyone. I will try to share a few slides if it's possible, and let me see 1 second. Apologies, but I have some issues here. It's typical.
Well,
1 second.
This does not diminish our interest.
Well, I was going to talk about the role of policy and piloting to unlock the potential of low carbon hydrogen. So maybe I will try to go ahead without, or I maybe can share the slides with your colleagues, and if they can, maybe I think your colleagues already have the slides in PDF. I don't know if Tasia could share the screen.
You, by the way, may put the link into the chat.
No, it's not this one. This one, yes, thank you. Yes. So please, next. Yeah, so I just want to start to explain that, of course, the role of hydrogen in Ukraine is linked to the role of hydrogen in the global economy. And I want to first explain that the size of the challenges is really huge, and the development of low carbon hydrogen, and low carbon hydrogen is not only green hydrogen developed by renewables, but there are also other ways to produce hydrogen, as you know, like blue hydrogen, turquoise hydrogen, that are based on gas and based on other processes using some kind of sustainable heating sources. And I mean, the value chain requires a concurrent development of supply, demand, and the connecting infrastructure. So this is a special challenge. And putting the global hydrogen sector on track to achieve net zero emissions globally will require initial efforts till 2030 of about 1,200 billion of investments in the whole supply chain. And this is globally, of course. And the effort to develop this is basically comparable to the effort to develop the gas industry in the 60s and 70s, even if the pace really necessary at this time is lower. Please, next. So we see at the bank that the momentum of hydrogen development this time, because there have been other waves of hydrogen development in the past, but this time it seems that things are accelerating much rapidly than before. And there are already 16 countries with hydrogen strategies, and there is a lot of, significant electrolyzer capacity in the pipeline, around almost 90 gigawatts. And the projection is that around 54 gigawatts of the capacity will be deployed by 2030. There is already 5 gigawatts of plants in China under construction, and the electrolyzer manufacturers are expanding capabilities around 1 gigawatt annually. So you see here in the map the countries that have already some kind of published national strategy, and others that have some I mean, including Ukraine, of course, there's already some work and some policy discussions that are ongoing. So you see that there's huge interest on the hydrogen economy globally. Please, next. Of course, especially relevant for Ukraine is the European hydrogen strategy. As you probably all know, it was adopted in 2020, and it listed around 20 points, and many of them are already under implementation, and there are plans for financing around 750 projects. There is, of course, the renewable power EU plant that has is willing to accelerate this further. And there is the plan to produce 10 million tons and import 10 million tons of renewable energy hydrogen, green hydrogen this time by 2030. So the actions contemplated by the Commission are designed to accelerate the uptake of green hydrogen, ammonia, and other derivatives for hard to decarbonize sectors. And of course, to support the scaling up of the infrastructure necessary for this. Within these measures, the Commission proposed a global European hydrogen facility to create investment security and business opportunities for European and global hydrogen production. Please, next. So here we can just see the different projects that are planned globally. Around 500 billion are planned. Different scales and different, I mean, some of them are infrastructure, some of them are to develop demand, and some of them are to develop supply. Please, next. And however, we must emphasize that there are significant challenges, for developing in World Bank client countries. Of course, the first challenge is the high cost of electrolyzers. That is always, and this raises always the question of to what extent countries that are, developing countries or countries that have difficulties to bear the cost of reducing the cost of emerging technologies. We always face this question in the bank. Of course, there is still some uncertainty about technical performance and efficiency of the different technologies. There is lack of strategies and roadmaps, even if on this we are helping, and there is many countries active on this arena. There is the issue of water access and water supply and water procurement, because, of course, for the generation of hydrogen, all type of hydrogen, there is a need for water. And this, of course, is a highly contentious topic. The use of water and use of land to produce hydrogen, of course, as well. The high average cost of capital. The capex required for these investments is high. And also the high cost of transport infrastructure and the update of infrastructure from gas. This is particularly relevant for Ukraine. In countries that depend for the export of gas, of hydrogen, will depend on the update of infrastructure dedicated to gas. This is also a huge issue to be studied and analyzed. And of course, there are capacity and institutional framework barriers that need to be overcome as well. Please, next. So I think the World Bank is trying to create synergies between client countries to scale up hydrogen. There is one initiative. We are working on a partnership with SMAP and others. I previously worked in SMAP, so I'm quite involved on that as well. And we are trying to combine policy instruments, update of regulatory framework, and try to get climate finance to support pilot projects. Please, next. At the moment, I just wanted to provide you an overview of the type of countries and the range of countries involved. There is, of course, some global work, but the work regional, we are doing at the regional level, like in Middle East and North Africa. But there are also other countries they are developing very, very specific roadmaps for hydrogen development, like Uzbekistan, Mauritania, Chile, Morocco, Namibia, India, Costa Rica, In Ukraine also, we supported a study on blue hydrogen and carbon capture storage, and we have collaborated with USAID in the preliminary roadmap that was developed some time ago. And there are also we have also incorporated the role of hydrogen in what we call country development and decarbonization reports, including the one for Ukraine, where we have seen that, of course, the hydrogen is required for the full decarbonization of the country, because the industrial sector will require the use of hydrogen as fuel. Therefore, there is a need to introduce hydrogen for the own decarbonization, for the decarbonization of the internal demand, not only for exports. No, even if, of course, for exports would be the kind of driving force in order to develop the hydrogen economy in Ukraine. So yeah, maybe the next slide, just to close. I mean, here I'm not going to enter into the details, but in some countries, the bank is going forward beyond the roadmap. And for example, there's one example in Chile where we are supporting a platform for the financing of pilots, and in addition to do some analytical work. And there are other countries also interested in this type of approach, and in other countries we are supporting analysis on to update the infrastructure, and other countries is more of a TA, but some countries are already lending or interested in lending for hydrogen projects. So I stop here, and again, maybe just to emphasize that, of course, Ukraine has a competitive advantage. Is probably, I mean, of course, Ukraine has a renewable energy potential that is interesting, but the competitive advantage is the closeness to Europe, and the fact that Ukraine already comes with significant gas infrastructure that could be upgraded, and also a significant storage capacity that could be reused to maybe store hydrogen, and including, I mean, under physical conditions not to do that. But of course, I mean, in the global economy, there are some countries that have higher competitive advantage, and initially maybe there will be some early movers because they have extremely good renewable resource or gas resource that can, with which they can really produce blue hydrogen in a very cheaply way, more than others. Of course, Ukraine could also have the possibility to generate pink hydrogen if that is considered as green hydrogen and to be imported for Europe and confirmed in that way. But what we see is that every country I mean, the demand of hydrogen globally will increase significantly in the next years, and every country will be able to export at a certain point in time, no? But still, that the initial steps probably would be in every country that we have been looking at is to supply and to maybe to supply the internal demand, and to limit the reliance on exports in some countries. So I think energy security and the need to decarbonize hard to abate sectors probably will be the initial driving forces, and exports will come later in the midterm. But of course, in order to be able to export, you need to really start working now. Otherwise, countries may be left out of the possibility to export in the future. So I stop here, and thank you very much for your attention. Bye.
Thank you very much for this streamlined presentation. And I see that we've been joined by Dr. Alexander Sushenko, who is the team leader in Energy and Environment Portfolio, United Nations Development Program in Ukraine. Dr. Sushenko, the mic is yours. Hello? No, although he's registered as a participating person, he obviously is away from the mic. Nevertheless, we have plenty of other important speakers, and I suggest that the next to speak is Marina Olgado, Technical Secretariat Coordinator of the Hydrogen Technology Collaboration Program, established under the auspices of the International Energy Agency.
Yes. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear and we see you as well.
Perfect. And do you see my slides?
Yes, and the slide is visible as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for having the Hydrogen TCP in this great conversation and discussion. I will briefly present the Technology Collaboration Program, that in short is what we call TCP. As you well said, Andre, it was established in 1977 under the auspices of the International Energy Agency. And what we do is we are an international collaborative research in hydrogen initiative. As you can see here, you will see all of the country members that we have now. Ukraine is not a member yet, but we can change that soon if that is considered a priority. So what we do is we bring together experts in hydrogen technologies all over the hydrogen value chain from all of these country members that you see here, and we bring them to solve challenges that we find in the hydrogen value chain. And how do we do that? We do that in working groups that we call TASK. TASK are international working groups that work together for 3-4 years to solve a challenge. And what we do, we are basically as open source of technological knowledge. All that we do is to put it out there so the public can use it. So if you go to our website, that is www.ieahydrogen.org, you will find lots of reports of all our previous tasks, as well as published papers, workshops. All the information that we work for is to be open to the public in the end. So this is our current task portfolio. So here are the tasks that we are working now. In the right end of the chart, you will see those that recently closed. So if you go now to our website, you will see the final report on these topics with recommendations, main conclusions, for example, on power to hydrogen and hydrogen to X. That is very important and very usable at this point. We are currently working on energy storage and conversion based on hydrogen, meaning investigating different materials to store hydrogen. Those experts published many papers, and one of the papers they published was awarded with the most cited paper on their topic of research. So these are very interesting topics, as well as we have another on analysis and modeling of hydrogen technologies. We saw that lots of energy modeling systems, when we do this, how the energy system is going to look like in 2030 or how it's going to look like in 2050, they were not considering hydrogen truly for its full potential, because hydrogen, as you know, has many roles. It can be used to produce power, but it can be used as a fuel to decarbonize the heating needs. It also can be used to decarbonize transport, to decarbonize the industry. So we have experts in modeling working together on how to best model hydrogen in the future energy system. Then we have a recently opened task on underground hydrogen storage, very interesting as well, and one on safety regulation codes and standards. That is, of course, very needed. And we are currently working on defining new tasks on the topics that you see in this column that is called project definition phase. This is very interesting because the project definition phase is open both to members and non-members. So any Ukrainian expert that is interested in any of these topics can help shape the work of these future tasks. So we are talking on task on hydrogen certification. Also, natural hydrogen. This is a very interesting topic. Recently, it was discovered that hydrogen can be found naturally underground in purities up to 98 and 99%, such as we found natural gas in reservoirs. So we are bringing together experts in drilling, experts in natural gas reservoirs, and experts in hydrogen, experts in microbiology and how the microbiology on the underground affects this kind of naturally occurring hydrogen, to see what how much would be this natural hydrogen. Is this enough to be considered as a new source of hydrogen, as a new pathway of hydrogen production, let's say? So this is a very interesting topic that we are just shaping. Of course, we are talking about hydrogen export value chains and hydrogen trade, not only overseas, but also inland. So this will be very interesting for Ukraine, producing it and exporting it, or importing it when needed. How are we doing this? Are we doing it through pipelines? Are we doing this on the road? So we are exploring all these opportunities. Also, offshore hydrogen production, hydrogen from nuclear energy. That is also a very interesting topic, and renewable hydrogen production, analyzing the different pathways for producing hydrogen from renewable energies. So all this, if we have Ukraine experts interested in helping shape this task, because we have different opportunities of collaborating with the hydrogen TCP. Of course, any of you that want the information, you will have it. Either if you want information for already closed tasks, you just go to the website and browse, and you will find lots of open source information. Or if you want information from these tasks that are happening now, you just need to follow us in our social media. You will be updated when we publish new reports, when we have new workshops. You just need to follow us. But if you want to help shape what it will become of this task, or if you want to propose a new topic, you just need to write me, and I will put you in contact with the right persons. And you will participate in shaping the future on international collaboration to solve these challenges, or to help hydrogen technologies to the next level, thanks to international collaboration in R&D. So we also do other things, such as reviewing documents for other organizations, of course, the IEA, other TCPs, other international groups. And we do great work on technology readiness level assessment of all the hydrogen technologies. And we also have the Hydrogen TCP Awards of Excellence, whose first edition will be awarded in the SEM 13 meeting in Pittsburgh, USA in September. So I will leave you just with the one final conclusion, that is we have an immense challenge with the scaling up of hydrogen production. If we see the net zero emission scenarios that were shared by the International Energy Agency, of the IRENA or the Hydrogen Council, we see that we estimate a clean hydrogen production of 400 or to 800 million tons per year. For that, we will need to install 4,000 to 5,000 gigawatts of electrolyzers by 2050. And what that means is 160 gigawatts electrolyzers per year. This is what we want, but where are we? The current portfolio of projects is around 280 gigawatts to become in operation in 2030. So that means 30 gigawatts a year, pretty far from the 160 gigawatts per year that we would need to reach our goals. And we are finding a bottleneck with the gigawatt manufacturers. We have a handful of electrolyzers manufacturers around the world. So we need to develop European technology. We need to go for the manufacturing industry of electrolyzers and help leverage this number from 30 to 160. So this is the challenge that we have, and we will be happy to contribute to solve this by international collaboration on hydrogen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Fascinating prospects, demanding tasks, and we'll follow you up on your statements. And we, of course, will reap the boons of your activity. And now I invite to speak our next person, and this is Kilian Krohne, team leader, hydrogen and synthetic energy carriers at the German Energy Agency, DINA.
Foster a lot of other accompanying activities. For the next 4 or 5 minutes, I would like to highlight what our priorities could be in this changed environment in the bilateral cooperation and where we are coming from. Starting maybe with the situation in Germany. As many of you will know, Germany is largely dependent on energy imports for its primary energy consumption, but also deeply committed to climate neutrality in 2045. And looking at the present construction of the German energy mix, it remains clear that even with the switch to renewables, we will not be energy self-sufficient by 2045. Quite on the contrary, we have identified in a range of modeling studies that hydrogen imports will play a very large role. We see hydrogen demand, including derivatives, to be between 400 and maybe 700 terawatt hours per year, out of which up to 80 or 90% could be imported from abroad. So we see Ukraine as a partner for hydrogen, but we see also Ukraine in the longer horizon with the larger land availability compared to the situation we have in Germany and the proximity in Europe as a potential exporter. And I know that's not universally shared amongst all Ukrainian stakeholders, but I think it's important to realize what one of the main drivers of the German hydrogen strategy is, and that is energy imports next to technology exports. What we understand about the situation in Ukraine is that there has been very strong momentum in installing renewable generation capacity, especially from about 2017 up until very recently, especially with photovoltaics. But as a percentage of the entire energy mix, it remains rather limited. And from the German perspective, renewable power is the most preferred option of generating hydrogen through electrolysis, and that remains a challenge. The second one is, I think, the national regulatory framework that I sense a high political ambition to address, but that is still under development in Ukraine. And the third point, obviously the current geopolitical environment, but even also before the start of the war, a relatively challenging environment for foreign investors, combined with a strong willingness of foreign donors and development banks to address country risk and cost of capital. I would like to highlight 3 points linking to this European integration question that I also see as points to be addressed in the bilateral partnership. The first point is the opportunities that we see from the hydrogen backbone, and especially with the update of the European hydrogen backbone in April this year, we understand that the plans
Hello?
Andre?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, now yes, but there was a pause, so I became disturbed.
Okay, I hope the connection remains stable. Let me pick up where we left. The 2 corridors that we see highlighted here on this map have been fundamentally advanced in the latest iteration of the European hydrogen backbone. We see that already in 2030, first physical links could emerge with the current plans for the sort of Central European Southern Corridor that is fostered by the European TSOs. We also see in 2040, as this depicted on the map here, a possible second link through Poland, hydrogen economy in both Ukraine and Germany through this European project. And finally, what can be said from the efforts in ENTSO-G and ENTSO-E integration is that in general, a coordinated operation of infrastructure is possible, is being worked on, and constitutes the basis for linking the hydrogen infrastructure in the future. Second is the question of securing offtake. I think it's been sufficiently pointed out that especially green hydrogen has a cost premium over fossil energy carriers. That means we need a willingness to pay those green premiums. And with the EU energy platform as a vehicle established in April, we see this as a potential mechanism to pool demand by willing European countries to jointly purchase hydrogen, but also to take into account larger political priorities, such as the fostering of Ukrainian hydrogen production. So I see this as an avenue to be explored amongst European member states in fostering hydrogen economy. Third, let me close with that, are the opportunities that we see from harmonization of the regulatory framework. As I said earlier on, the regulatory framework for hydrogen is in development in both the European Union and Germany, as well as in Ukraine. On the European side, there is, I think it's coming together. We are emerging with a consensus, especially on sustainability requirements. I see a large opportunity to translate those into the Ukrainian regulatory framework. The same goes for the technical standards that are still under development in Ukraine. I think this is an area of action where we can particularly use German expertise by us, but also by other stakeholders, to enable the Ukrainian integration in the future hydrogen markets in Europe. And it is also a project and a working area that's independent from the current conditions for physical investment in energy infrastructure, and enables us to prepare with our Ukrainian partners a rapid scaling of hydrogen production in the future. So this concluding are the three action areas I see coming from European harmonization, European integration, and recent activities. These are action areas that we are discussing with our Ukrainian partners to be taken up as potential priorities in the bilateral working group. And I'm very much looking forward to working on those jointly in the future. Thank you.
And we are, of course, very much looking forward to the results of your work, as it is always characterized by quality and efficiency. Now I do offer the word once again to Dr. Sushchenko, Alexander Sushchenko. Let me remind you that he is the team leader of the Energy and Environment portfolio at the UNDP in Ukraine.
Hi, colleagues. Я перепрошую, вітаю. Вітаю всіх. I don't know, is it better to talk in English or...
Yeah, the working language today is English.
Yes, English. Okay, great. And sorry for making you wait, because we have back-to-back meetings after our conference in Lugano, because UNDP was supporting recovery plan presentation of this plan to the donors and to the partners. And right now we have like back-to-back meetings with all of them, like to follow up on, including our current issue and our current topic. So I will try to be again short and just to provide you with the main updates, what UNDP is doing in this direction in Ukraine, what are the plans, because let's say UNDP in Ukraine was in the previous years not so active in the energy area. So right now we're trying to solve this issue and to be even more let's say quicker in responding to the needs. So in terms of what UNDP is planning and how we're going to respond to our, let's say, current topic. So there are three streams, so to speak. One of them is the stream of support to the critical infrastructure. So as you have already seen from the presentation of other speakers, so if we are going to develop hydrogen economy, so it's about the infrastructure and transportation. So mostly, and what we see right now is that our so to speak neighbors, between the brackets, that they are trying to destroy the infrastructure, and this will be an issue when we'll be trying to transport our products, including the hydrogen to our European partners. So this is what we right now are discussing with the Ministry of Energy under our let's say separate stream, and we're going to let's say present our joint recovery program for the energy sector, where actually the critical infrastructure, the pipelines, and everything what relates to this will be included. So we will be trying to support restoration, improvements of the infrastructure, and this should facilitate export of this particular product to our European partners. So this is one stream. The next stream is the harbors. So it's actually Odessa, which is right now one of the focus for our activities. not only on the energy sector, but also on agriculture. And we will be trying to present our comprehensive approach, which should be first negotiated and agreed with all the key stakeholders, because it affects not only economic, but also political issues. And once this response will be ready, we will be also quite keen to present what we're going to, how we're going to support also this stream. And the last but not the least is the financial part, because without financial support, all these activities will be literally impossible. And we've been working with the National Bank of Ukraine, and we're still working with this institution with the aim, let's say, main goal is to make sure that green and sustainable finance will be still available for everybody who is going to work in this area and to have this access to the private, especially private finance available. Again, what is like additional part of this work also on the financial stream as well is that we're trying to support implementation of the guarantees of region, which is also important because this instrument will be important like enabler for the producers and for the exporters to the EU. Again, this will be quite interesting for the financial market, like an instrument that will facilitate provision of the financial resources to the producers and to the exporters. So once again, our approach and what we're doing right now is, first of all, restoration of the critical infrastructure within the energy sector. The second pillar is those are the harbors and especially Odessa, where we're trying to work on this stream. And as I said, the last but not the least is access to the finance, because again, without the finance, this whole story will be almost impossible. So thank you for your attention, and yeah, I was trying to be short and not to take in much time.
You've been brisk and you have not taken much of our time, but you generously shared your time with us. And now I invite to speak Rasmus Munch Sørensen, who is the director of the Center for Systems Analysis at the Danish Energy Agency.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, very well.
Thank you. Well, thank you for letting me speak to you in this important crowd on this important topic. I'm going to share a few things. I've been asked to talk a bit about hydrogen in Denmark and where we're at it, and see the development of this sector. So I'll go over a bit about how we've looked at the supply side of hydrogen and the demand side in terms of Denmark. And lastly, I'll talk a bit about the current status and our focus efforts right now. So let me also start to say that in terms of Denmark and Ukraine, we're a bit far away from each other geographically, but we also in Denmark, of course, are very focused on hydrogen and green energy in general, because it's a very large export area for Denmark as well. Green technology is our largest export, and we are anticipating hydrogen, green hydrogen, in particular technologies for this to ramp up significantly in terms of our own use and also selling abroad. But that's not really the main focus of our analysis and our Danish efforts. We look very much to hydrogen because we see it as not just an important stepping stone, but also the end goal for a very large part of the green transition that we need to make. We in Denmark, of course, as you possibly know, we have very large renewable energy resources in terms of offshore wind, but also onshore solar and PV. We are already today in Denmark almost at 100% renewable energy in our electricity system. So we have a very good foundation for using green electricity to produce green hydrogen. When we couple that with the very large amount of green hydrogen companies we have, there is on the supply side a very good basis for producing green hydrogen in Denmark. Now, next, when we look at the demand side, we are at a bit of a disadvantage actually in Denmark, because we do not use very large amounts of fossil hydrogen today. it's actually only our 2 refineries, oil refineries, that use hydrogen. But that's not really a major issue because we use oil products for many other things, and we need to substitute these with green products as well. And we see green hydrogen. That's why we talk about it as power to X. So we see the X products, and that can be ammonia for our shipping. We have a very large shipping fleet, but it could also be carbon-based hydrogen molecules. So that would be, for example, methanol, or it could be plastics. A very, very wide number of different applications of hydrogen. What we will focus on is all the sectors where we don't see a future where we can use electricity directly. So we do not see hydrogen play any significant role in personal transportation, like cars, or in heating homes, for example. We see the role there being quite small, as direct electrification is the main way forward. That's definitely how we see it. So instead, we will focus on using hydrogen, of course, for industries, new industry applications, but mainly actually for processing onto different products that we can use to substitute fossil fuels. We are also, of course, very aware of our neighbors. Denmark is a small country, so especially Germany and their focus on using hydrogen. They have a large hydrogen consumption already, as we just heard. So in step with rolling out our own consumption of it, we're also looking into how we can establish a hydrogen backbone, possibly offshore to our energy islands that we are planning in the North Sea, and couple that to a European hydrogen backbone. So that leads me a bit to where we are right now. Just before Christmas last year, we published this. We'll send you a link to it. It's one of the 16 national strategies for hydrogen. As I said, we call it Power to X because we're mainly focused on the next step of the hydrogen. And in April, our government made an agreement with the rest of Parliament, most parties in Parliament, about rolling out hydrogen. Part of this is to set a goal for building 4 to 6 gigawatts of electricity or electrolyzers in Denmark by 2030. This has actually already kind of been overtaken by reality. We are currently at a pipeline of more than 7 gigawatts by private investors, which are planning more than 7 gigawatts by 2030 in Denmark. When we look towards 2050, we see upwards of 20 gigawatts or more of hydrogen production capacity in Denmark. Again, green hydrogen is where our focus is. So it's quite a steep ramp up that we see for us, but it's definitely doable, and we are planning the electricity production to follow with it. So what we're focusing on right now is the different market barriers, such as grid tariffs in an electricity system, but also establishing the pipelines and the market infrastructure in Europe surrounding hydrogen, but in particular also making the market uptake for green hydrogen-based molecules. Yes, so that's what I had. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sorensen. Denmark may be a small country in size, but it's certainly big in ideas. And our next speaker is Dr. Romanas Savickas. He's the Senior Energy Advisor at Principal Managing Consultant and Expert at the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm representing United Nations Environmental Program. We are based in Copenhagen, UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center. And one of our focus areas is hydrogen. And I'm developing hydrogen activities in UNEP CCC. The main focus is, of course, on green hydrogen. We have all rainbow of hydrogen products from gray to green, and we see the potential as green hydrogen. We focus not only on one country, but on all range of countries globally. We run projects internationally in different countries, regions, continents, and focusing on Europe, on Asia, Africa, Latino America, developing hydrogen projects. Today, what we have, that we have to take actually key steps to create a stakeholders group to build this favorable ecosystem for the investments in hydrogen finance. So we can create innovative business models and financing mechanisms to facilitate this green hydrogen market creation and forward development. And of course, by the same time, we have to identify and unlock the barriers to raise the domestic, international capital from financial institutions, mainly blending finances and different financial engineering mechanisms. So what we can do, what I see is very important that the pilot green hydrogen projects, they may require an initial boost and help by providing grants and subsidies. What are larger green hydrogen development project stage and high scale replication, this may not be necessary anymore, as later developing green hydrogen projects, we see that because of economy of scale, because of replication, the capex for the investment drops down. So in the future, these pilot projects may be economically, technically viable without any grants and subsidies. At the moment, we see that these projects, especially considering green hydrogen projects, they need subsidies, and so the role of public sector and government plays a very important role facilitating these projects. Future technological development and decreasing electrolyzers costs may decrease cost of production and final green hydrogen price. For example, electrolyzers market by 2050 is expected to be more than 50-60 billion of euros. And the green hydrogen price is expected to halve over the next 10 years. So for example, comparing to gray hydrogen, the gray hydrogen cost may increase, and the green hydrogen cost by 2050 may decrease in exponential way comparing with the situation what we have today. The main drivers of cost reduction for renewable hydrogen, of course, includes electrolyzers costs, which makes today about 70%. So solving this issue and decreasing costs for electrolyzers, for electricity costs, so reducing this electricity cost today, we can make these projects economically viable without any grants, subsidies. Capex costs play a very important role, and these projects mainly they are front cost capex intensive. This means when we're trying to develop these projects, the private sector mainly takes about 20-30% of capex investments, and about 70% comes from banks, from loans. This increases interest rate and financial costs puts on the top. So decreasing capex costs decreases also financial barriers. Project financing costs about 10% may also at later stages decrease. Operation maintenance about 5% may not be so big issue in all share of these costs. So two main issues remain as obstacle to hydrogen development is the manufacturing cost of electrolyzers and of course unclear regulatory framework what we have today, and we have to focus on this in different countries a lot. Of course, the global commitment increases to the electrolyzers capacity to achieve target production goals. In Europe target, the commitment is by 2030 to increase more than 40 gigawatts, and that means that we may have almost double-sized electrolyzers capacity, more than 80 gigawatts or more. Europe leads globally in the number of announced hydrogen projects, with Australia, Japan, Korea, China, USA, we're following as additional hubs. But today we see that there is a gap in Eastern Europe and Central Asia projects. But in principle, by 2050, hydrogen could account up to 12 or 15% of global energy use, and hydrogen will play a very important role in today's energy transition. Most countries in their hydrogen strategies, they give priority today to green hydrogen. Therefore, today is important to define the right priorities, how to kickstart a green hydrogen ecosystem and to start developing required hydrogen infrastructure. Mainly, we have also to reassess production, supply and demand map and picture, because infrastructure plays a very important role in the cost structure. So bringing close production and consumption of hydrogen may decrease these costs. So we have to reconsider the renewable energy and renewable electricity production and hydrogen production and consumption chain to have is as close as possible. Also, it is important to assess the global potential to contribute to development of hydrogen ecosystem, to explore what are opportunities for hydrogen import, export potential, and as well as domestic applications for the hydrogen. According to International Energy Agency, in the future it may be cheaper in some instances for some countries to import hydrogen than to produce it domestically. Working with different countries, for example, like MENA region countries, LATAM, Latin America, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Africa countries, I see that in countries like regions as Africa, they have a lot of renewable energy sources. They may produce electricity. Of course, they have issues as water supply, that making synergies between different projects. For example, when you build a hydrogen plant and you're producing water, so in Africa, the country may benefit from water production and desertification in its regions. So we have to have more broad approach to overall system. And hydrogen I see as part of integrated energy system, not as one part independent, but in the future, it will be part of integrated energy systems of electricity production and all our sources. Yeah, so today we have to take case steps to create with stakeholders group to build a favorable ecosystem for the investment in green hydrogen finance, to create innovative business models, what we're working in exploring today, financing mechanism to facilitate the market creation, and of course, facilitation of pilot projects and replication of potential. It also plays a very important role in green hydrogen transition. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Savickas. a huge scale of work, a depth of search. And now I invite a person from the science, Gennady Zhuk, director of the of the GES Institute of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine.
Thank you, Andrei. Hi to all. I want to make presentation, and I thank for the possibility to make this presentation. We are a research institute, and we involved in research and also in development, and make deal with hydrogen technologies also. I want to say, first of all, that I think technologies play a key role in the hydrogen development in Ukraine, of course, and in the world, because we can talk about economy, we can talk about strategy of hydrogen development, but it may be supported by technologies. For example, if we take a Ukrainian high-pressure pipe to transport, to export blue hydrogen or green hydrogen, but now we have no proven experiments to transport some amount of hydrogen or some amount of mixture of natural gas and hydrogen. That's why I emphasize that technology is very important. And now I want to show some slides about our achievements in hydrogen technology research. As you can see my presentation.
Yeah, well, we can see it.
Okay. Thank you. Next slide, please. To begin with, the first slide is our last year experience with a company named Regional Gas Company of Ukraine, and we involved in research how to use hydrogen and natural gas mixtures up to 50%, how to store hydrogen and its inflation on materials of plastic pipes. Next, please. So we involved in experiments how to produce hydrogen by thermal methods. It's plasma or other methods. Next slide, please. How to produce by anaerobic digestion and by gasification of biomass. It's so-called green hydrogen. Next, please. We have some facilities of software to modeling the process of hydrogen storage, transportation, and burning, and so on. Next, please. And we have some hardware facilities to research burning of hydrogen and mixtures of hydrogen with natural gas. And as I have said, the mixture contains up to 50% of hydrogen. Next slide, please. Also to use hydrogen and mixtures of hydrogen in gas piston engine. Next, please. To use hydrogen in metallurgy. Next, please. And you can see some photos. Now you can see our projects on landfill side, exporting hydrogen, especially for seal. Next, please. It's also experiments on the side. Next, please. And our laboratory of hydrogen storage. Next, please. So thank you for attention. You can see our key personals. The last one is Deputy Director and Director of Hydrogen Technology Center. So we propose to all foreign researchers and foreign interest peoples to make collaboration with us, and we try to do better for Ukraine despite of war and all the problems, but we moving ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And I'm sure your proposal will be duly noted and will bring results. The next person to speak is Brad Bradshaw. He's president of the Hydrogen Energy Center.
Thank you very much for inviting me to join this esteemed group to address a very important topic in a very challenging time and a very challenging environment. So with great appreciation, I want to say a few things about some ideas. Fertilizer, for example, and very high costs as well. And that creates both a challenge and an opportunity. The high cost of natural gas in Europe, the high cost of fertilizer creates an opportunity for hydrogen to be more economic and have a role going forward. As mentioned earlier, the scale of investment around the world in hydrogen is tremendous. The estimate earlier was $500 billion. We have done research on hydrogen hubs, and hydrogen hubs alone are representing $300 billion in commitments currently. Why is hydrogen so valuable today? We have always known about the technical potential of hydrogen to decarbonize and play a role. But what has changed is the low cost of solar energy has created the opportunity for hydrogen to be more economic. And this is significant because the economics of large-scale hydrogen production facilities are quite favorable today. Although challenges remain in acquiring electrolyzers, certainly, but the but the transportation of hydrogen is a critical factor as well. Most hydrogen today is used in the same place it is produced, and that is because of the challenge of transporting hydrogen. So any strategy needs to couple production with transportation and demand in terms of being successful to make sure it works. So today I just want to speak to three specific ideas about Ukraine and hydrogen in terms of moving forward. First, the production of green ammonia for fertilizer production for domestic use and for export. The production of green hydrogen for injection into natural gas pipelines, both for domestic use and for export to Europe. And finally, the production of liquid hydrogen for use as a fuel in heavy transport for trucks and buses and municipal vehicles. And liquid hydrogen can be used domestically, transported to forecourts and refueling infrastructure, as well as export to Europe. The I will now go over each of those three opportunities that I see for Ukraine and hydrogen. The first being the ammonia production for fertilizer. And in this particular case, it can be used to lower the cost and stabilize the availability of fertilizer for both domestic use and for export. The energy source can be nuclear energy, wind energy, and solar energy. Most hydrogen hubs are integrating a combination of wind and solar, as well as some battery storage. And the reason why is to have high capacity factor of the capital equipment that is used to produce ammonia. Funding and electrolyzers can come from Europe, and it is important to secure a supply. The supply chain for electrolyzers is challenging, but it will be addressed. Air separation units for nitrogen production are required, and the Haber-Bosch process for ammonia synthesis is well established for ammonia production. Again, all of that equipment requires high utilization of the equipment and the capital resource, which means having an integrated solution of the renewable energy, battery energy storage in order to achieve high capacity factor. And the fertilizer can be used in Ukraine as well as exported on ships and through trains to other markets as well as the European market. Now, it also is important that the production of green hydrogen for injection in pipelines that can also be produced from renewable energy and nuclear energy, and it utilizes electrolyzers. There is less capital equipment compared to ammonia production, and the hydrogen can be injected into the existing natural gas pipelines. And it is important to have the standards changed to allow the injection of hydrogen, as well as mentioned earlier, studies in the leakage of hydrogen out of seams and joints in the infrastructure as well. Finally, the production of liquid hydrogen as a fuel for heavy transport. There is significant investment being made in hydrogen for heavy transport, and it has higher utility than battery electric, given the weight and cost of batteries and the long recharging time of very large batteries for heavy vehicles. And the form of hydrogen that is being used in transportation is liquid hydrogen because it is easily transported to refueling stations and depots. And in this case, it can also be a buffer between the supply and the demand as well. And there is some certainly rail and ship transport of liquid hydrogen, but we see mostly it will be regional transport via truck. And we also are seeing some truck manufacturers designing onboard hydrogen storage in liquid form for trucks instead of gaseous. And so we're seeing the supply chain go all the way down to the vehicles in terms of a liquid hydrogen infrastructure. To succeed with this strategy requires large-scale renewable energy plants in an integrated solution. The integration of the technology to optimize capital and equipment utilization factors, the securing of offtake agreements to facilitate financing and assured supply demand, as well as making sure that the standards for technology are brought up to date to enable these solutions. So again, we at the Hydrogen Energy Center provide webinars on hydrogen topics and are very interested in promoting and accelerating the deployment of practical solutions today. And we appreciate having the opportunity to discuss these important factors with you and as Ukraine moves forward and plans for the future. So thank you very much.
And we appreciate your taking your time and effort to take part in this discussion. Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. The next very important person to speak is Olga Bondarenko. She is the Officer for Energy Policy and Systems Analysis, Energy and Information Department of Helmholtz Center in Berlin for Materials and Energy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for organizing this event aimed to discuss pressing issues on hydrogen. In my speech, I would like to address the role of science and innovation in the energy transition, the hydrogen economy development in Germany, and future cooperation between Ukraine and Germany. Let me introduce the institute I represent here today. Helmholtz Center Berlin is a research center that develops solutions for climate neutral society. There are 1,200 employees here from almost 70 countries, and 500 of them are researchers. The main research facilities here is the synchrotron BC2 and the number of laboratories, including catalytic. Researchers here are developing materials and sustainable technologies for solar cells, batteries, catalysts. These energy materials are essential for achieving CO2 neutral and secure energy supply. We at HZB think that science and innovation play a key role in the energy transition process. The transformation of Germany energy system and achievement of climate neutrality in 2045 is now the main challenge. The current situation with Russia's war against Ukraine and energy crisis in Europe requires a rapid and substantial reduction of dependence on fossil energies and raw materials and their suppliers. Therefore, disruptive changes are very much needed. The research and development stage of projects today runs almost parallel to policy development. And this approach is the key for the future decarbonization of hard-to-abate sectors such as aviation. At HDB, we are in the partnership with other research institutions within Germany and worldwide, developing a number of projects based on green hydrogen technologies from the early research stage. For example, the project based on power-to-liquid technology, like producing sustainable aviation fuel. One of our hydrogen-related projects is CATLab. The project aims to develop a new generation of catalytic processing that is required for producing of green hydrogen. So, innovation results in this project will be a breakthrough in the heart of the process of producing of green hydrogen, and then will affect all power-to-X production chains. So, hydrogen is an essential part of energy transition, along with the massive deployment of renewables for achieving climate neutrality by 2045. In the first phase of market rollout, it is important to fund integrated projects. And by integrated projects, we mean the projects that embrace whole hydrogen value chain. Germany has one of the largest hydrogen demand in the European Union. According to the National Hydrogen Strategy, around 100 terawatt hours of green hydrogen will be needed already by 2030. Since the domestic production of green hydrogen will not be sufficient, most of the hydrogen needed will have to be imported. And here is the opportunity for cooperation. Germany considers possible no-regrets application for the first hydrogen projects in industry, in steel, chemical, refinery, in transport, aviation, shipping, trucks, and in power sector is storage. Germany's hydrogen projects are financed on two levels, on European and on the state level. So roughly 8 billion of euros of federal and state funds will be spent on 62 major hydrogen projects. And above that, 1.5 billion euros will be provided by European Union under the important projects of Common European Interested Scheme. There is still a lot of work ahead to address the following issues, like incentivizing demand, implementation of the guarantees of origin schemes, of bankability of green hydrogen projects, of development global monitoring and reporting system for projects, and better considering social impacts with economic opportunities. About future cooperation between Ukraine and Germany. Ukraine today has the European Union candidate status. Country is a member of Energy Community and INSOE. Also, Ukraine, as it was mentioned before, has a large potential of renewable energy sources and therefore potential opportunities for producing green hydrogen, as well as transporting routes. And this has been recognized internationally. Ukraine is considered as a potential hydrogen supplier for the European Union in Repower EU plan and in the European Hydrogen Backbone Initiative. As Kilian Krohn already stated, Ukraine and Germany launched an energy partnership 2 years ago by signing a joint declaration of intent, and that partnership includes the development of hydrogen economy. So in conclusion, what are the ways to strengthen partnership? First of all, I would like to underline that the development of hydrogen market is happening now, which is promising in a way. There is no well-established market and a lot should be done. And for future partnership, it's most important to cooperate on regulatory issues. For example, on certification in accordance with the European Union requirements. Secondly, it is essential to accelerate innovation. And this requires strong international partnership between academic circles and industry. And thirdly, we at HZB aim to continuously advance research areas in partnership with other research institutions and industrial players, and would like to expand mutually beneficial cooperation with international partners for fulfilling a successful energy transition. And there are opportunities that can be exploited here. So here I would like to stop. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Attention deserved, of course, very well deserved attention with the profundity of your intervention. Now we have Amilcar Soares, who's a full professor at Instituto Superior Técnico, University of Lisbon, and researcher at Serena Centro de Recursos Naturales y Ambiente. The mic is yours, Mr. Soares.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrei. I will be short for sure. Let me share one presentation, short presentation. It's okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I belong to this research center. This research center is involves mostly researchers from Técnico, which is Lisbon University, but also some people, researchers, and the faculty like Oporto University. The main areas of our research. The main area are energy, environment, and raw materials. Lately, you are pretty involved in this energy transition that, as you can imagine, you have a lot of projects on these raw materials, mining digitalization until energy, which is some project related with hydrogen. That is our topic of this meeting. Related to, as for the hydrogen R&D, in our centers, I forgot to tell you that the center is Center for Natural Resources and Environment. That is in Serena. So this is the main topics of our R&D. The production, basically electrolyzers production and optimization and so on. The transport, long distance transport, basically focus on these blending systems of transport. And the third topic, which is the underground storage, geological underground storage. I will detail a bit with 2 slides on this because we have plenty of practice and good projects on this topic. We mix together 3 main scales, which is the micro scale, which is the analysis of the pores, the shape and way they are linked together and so on. Mesoscale, the study of those cores, and finally the macro scale, which is the reservoir characterization, which is the models of those geological targets, and to assess the best targets and the uncertainty and the risk attached to those targets. Basically, the basic framework we attack these problems is based on a multi-scale image lab, This is nanotomography here. Also, we have a core flooding lab, that studies the interface of rock and fluid. And also another good lab, very good, excellent lab, which is geomechanical lab, where we study the tensions, pore pressures, and so the basic formation that will retain the basis of those, the storage of hydrogen storage. So together with all these lab measurements and quantification of specific sites, we have information technology lab, which includes geological modeling, seismic inversion. We have plenty of practice on this seismic inversion in order to use all the geophysical methodology, but mostly seismic, to characterize the uncertainty and the risk of given sites. I mean underground sites, subsoil sites, spatial data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and also reservoir engineering. Reservoir engineering is those sets of tools that basically is focused on dynamic simulation of fluids on different routes. So this framework is responsible for all kind of for different products with different TRL, this technology readiness level since the beginning, just the research until products to really interface with the industry. But also we develop a lot of products for the industry. We would like, in this particular case of your idea, this meeting, is to ground all this research and development is to ground information. And now I'm talking about my school, technical school. We are quite open to ground these R&D activities on joint and master PhD programs. I would like to say that we can capitalize on a good experience that we are now living. It's still on a joint master on advanced mineral resources master program, a European master that includes our school and also a Ukrainian school, which is the Dnieper University. And our administration is quite open for this kind of joint master PhD, just put together teams from different universities. For example, this is just examples of energy resources engineer program that exists, and geo-resource engineer, chemical engineer, and so on.
They are welcome. Not at the moment, obviously. Then I ask Mr. Bezos, head of the State Energy Efficiency Committee Agency, to sum up today's meeting in the same brisk and businesslike manner as he opened our today's discussion.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I think all of colleagues, I deeply appreciate all the speakers for your time and the very useful information that you have shared. We have a lot to work out on our homework, and we have a lot of ideas and points to proceed with. So maybe for us in Ukraine, it's very hard to talk about such a high matter during the war, but it's even harder, not to think and not to talk and not to discuss our plans for rebuilding our country after our victory. So we have very high hopes for those opportunities that have been emerging with the global energy transition process. And we definitely are going to use those opportunities in close cooperation with our partners in the EU. So we will definitely rebuild and modernize our industries, such as chemical industry and metallurgy. We will definitely rebuild our green energy generation, and we surely will do it on a new technological basement. And we see hydrogen economy as one of the pillars for such rebuilding and renovation. So let's keep in touch and proceed with such discussions and further practical cases of collaboration. Thank you very much, and see you next discussions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bezos. Thanks everyone who took part, everyone who took interest, and I really have nothing to add because Valery Bezos has wrapped it all up in a business-like manner. All the best to you. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.